at his friends before he disappeared from view. Hey guys, how are you today? Glad you could join me. I was just going back over one of my favorite books I've read before, David Walliams' Midnight Game. Now, I truly enjoyed this book. Now, one thing, and the reason why I like to read books by David Walliams, or specifically a particular author, is because I don't like the story to end. I tend to drag it out and have multiple books that I'm looking at a time so that I can pretend that I'm in that book for a longer moment. Now, one thing that makes you want to read a book, makes you want to read someone's story, is by the details. They make you relate to the person. They know about the person. You don't write about somebody you've never met or know that you don't know without doing research. So think of things in your life that help tell a story. That will help you with your writing. But the reason you're here today is because we are once again back with David Walliams' Ice Monster, chapters 51 and 52. Let's get started. Chapter 51, One Lonely Medal. The Admiral selected his crack team. 10 men threw their scarlet coats and black trousers on over their pajamas, and, as their medals clinked together, they put on their Ticorn hats. Elsie noticed that, unlike all the other soldiers, Titch had just had the one lonely medal. Why has Titch only got one medal? She whispered to Dottie. Oh, don't ask, she replied. It's a sore point. They all tease him for it. Fall in, roared the Admiral. The old soldiers organized themselves into a line. They may have all been battered with age and ill health, but they stood to attention with the same pride as the first day they signed up. Between them, they had served in the Crimean War against the Russians, battled their way across India, and fought the Zulu warriors in Africa. Now, they were ready for the adventure of their lives. The Admiral approached the mammoth and saluted her. He won't let you down, ma'am. Mammoth, he said. Whoo, replied Wooly, lifting her trunk as if saluting back. Now, men, quick march. With that, he led his men out of the ward. I need to stay here and look after Wooly, said Elsie. You, Titch, gather up all the food you can lay out your hands on. There must be something Wooly didn't eat. Whoo! I'll do my best, Elsie, replied the private. Thank you, Titch. And Dottie, grab every last hat and glove and coat in here. Load them into the ship, and then both of you can come back to fetch us. Right you are, Titch replied. There were murmurs from the old soldiers, not sure about Titch being put in charge. He's only a private. Man's only got one medal. And what's he got for service? He's no hero. The egg is repeating on me. Dottie put a comforting hand on her beloved's shoulder. Don't take any notice. I'll show you, boys, said Titch. Now come on, follow me. With that, he led his comrades and Dottie across the ward and left Elsie alone with her woolly friend. Lock this door, ordered Titch as he reached it. Good thought, replied the girl. I'll knock twice. Then you'll know it's safe to open it. Understood? 2 fast knocks, or 2 slow knocks, asked Dottie. It doesn't matter, my love, snapped the soldier. Just 2 knocks. Knock, knock. I'll meet you back here as soon as we're ready to set sail. Elsie rushed over to the door and locked it behind them. Click. Then she crossed the ward to join Wooly. The girls put her arms around her. Don't worry, Wooly, she said. We're going to get you home. Ooh! Wooly nodded her head. Then the animal yawned, and Elsie did too. Wooly folded down onto her knees and rolled over onto her side before letting out a long, slow sigh. Ooh! Elsie lay down next to her friend, her back nestling up against the animal's belly. The mammoth curled her trunk round the girl and held her tight. This was a world away from the cold tin bath Elsie normally slept in. Together, they closed their eyes. Good night, Wooly. Woo! The pair breathed in and out in time with each other, and soon both had fallen asleep. Little did they know that someone was peering in the window at them through the window. Chapter 52. Rampage. Outside the window to the ward, the top of the ladder had appeared. At the top of the ladder, a pair of beady eyes, a long nose, and a tiny mustache had appeared. It was Commissioner Barker. He spied the pair sleeping and signaled to the officers below to keep quiet. "What?" one called up loudly from the ground. "A finger on the lip means be quiet," he hissed back. "Righty-ho." The constable on the ground shouted up, "Shh! Got it!" As the snow swirled round them, Commissioner Barker slid down the ladder, his feet landing with a crunch in the snow. Crundle. "This time we're not going to let them get away." Thud, thud. The sound woke up Elsie and Wooly with a start. The girl was sure she heard 2 knocks, but they were much louder than she'd anticipated. She wanted to call out for Dottie, but her throat tightened in fear, and she couldn't make a sound. Thud. Another knock. Something wasn't right. It was very wrong. Elsie moved backwards and felt Wooly wrap her trunk protectively around her. "Ooh," she whimpered. Thud. This time the door buckled. Thud. Shards of wood went flying. Thud. Boom. The doors smashed off their hinges and fell to the floor. Thoof, thoof. Framed in the doorway was Commissioner Barker, flanked by a dozen of his men, holding a battering ram. "Hoo!" roared the mammoth. The sound gave Elsie strength. "No, we're not going to come really noisily. We're going to come really noisily." With that, she clambered onto the animal's back and gave her a whack on her side. "Charge!" shouted Elsie. Wooly knew exactly what to do and galloped towards the men. "Hold the line!" ordered Barker. The policemen all looked at one another nervously as they linked arms. "Hold the line!" The policemen gripped one another tight. "Hold the line!" Barker was the first to disobey his own order. He broke away from his men and leaped out of the way. His men followed suit, leaving Wooly and Elsie free to escape down the corridor. "Cowards!" shouted Barker. "Fools!" Of course, the policemen were the exact opposite of fools, sensibly having no desire to be trampled to death by a prehistoric creature. Seeing the flight of descending stairs ahead, the mammoth came to an abrupt halt. "Whoa!" cried Elsie, as the force of the sudden stop hurled her into the air. Whish! She landed with on her bottom with a thud at the top step, thump, before sliding down the remaining steps at speed. Bunk, bunk, bunk. Wooly looked on with interest. Maybe this was the best way to go downstairs. She sat on her bottom, then slid down too. Bonk, bonk, bonk. Hoo, hoo, hoo. These were much bigger bonks, after all. The mammoth is an infinitely larger bottom. But going by the little yelp she let out as her bottom hit each step, she seemed to enjoy it. Soon the pair were lying in a crumpled heap at the bottom of the stairs. Seeing the policeman arriving at the top, Elsie pulled Wooly along by her trunk. "Hoo!" cried the animal. Spotting an open doorway, they raced in. It was a huge, grand dining room with chandeliers hanging from the ceiling. The wooden panels of the walls, table upon table, was laid out neatly for breakfast. Table upon table was upturned as the mammoth charged through the room. Hoo! Crash! Bang! Whoop! A gaggle of cooks dashed out of the kitchen door to see what the rumpus was all about. "What is the meaning of this?" demanded one. As soon as they saw the mammoth rampaging through the dining hall, they dashed back into the kitchen. "Sorry to disturb you. Please carry on." The policeman arrived at the doors. "The monster is the property of Her Majesty the Queen," shouted Barker. "We have our orders to return it alive or preferably dead." Immediately, Elsie leaped onto her friend's back so they couldn't shoot, and raced towards the set of the tall doors at the far end of the room. However, those doors swung open to reveal Matrone in a rather pooey-looking group of military policemen holding rifles. "We have you trapped," bawled Matrone. "Now, give yourselves up." "Never!" shouted the girl. The military policemen lifted their rifles. The animal reared up on her hind legs and roared a huge "Roo!" Elsie's head clinked against the bottom of the chandelier. Thinking fast, she grabbed hold of it and swung backwards before launching herself at the doorway. She flew through the air and hit Matrone and the military policemen like a bowling ball, striking like some skittles. Bash! Sending them flying. "Ah! Thud! Thud! Thud!" They rolled out of the way. As the mammoth thundered past, Elsie sprang to her feet and leaped back onto Wooly as she escaped through the door. All right, my friends, that does it for chapters 51 and 52 of David Walliams' Ice Monster. Now, you guys know what's next, right? Remember, we're restating the question, but as we're restating those questions, you need to make sure that you are answering each and every question with complete sentences. Now, another thing that people like about reading particular books, and they don't want it to end like myself, I like to read ones by David Walliams because he brings those characters back into other books. Think of Raj. We knew Raj from World's Worst Children. We knew Raj from Billionaire Boy. And he's even got a small part, well, his ancestor, in this book. Another character, too. Check out Gangster Granny. There's another character with the same last name that pulls up in Gangster Granny. All right, guys. Have a great rest of your day. We'll see you tomorrow.